time in months, a trickle of aid has arrived in northern Gaza without incident. 13 trucks delivered supplies, including flour, to Jabalia and to Gaza City. Volunteers and community leaders coordinated with the UN to secure the entry of the convoy. Aid organizations say this delivery is a test to see if they can conduct more on Sunday. A growing number of Palestinians are dying of hunger in the north, where the UN says famine is taking hold. 1 in 3 children in northern Gaza, 1 in 3 children under the age of 2, is acutely malnourished. That's according to the United Nations. Some food parcels have been delivered, but it's nowhere near enough to meet the needs of millions of Palestinians, as Michael Appel reports.
200 tons of aid is brought ashore. This represents only a fraction of what's needed to stop people starving in Gaza.
The situation is so bad that no one can imagine it, and the ship, even if it helps, will be a drop in the ocean, because the entire region is in need of aid, and people are competing to take aid from the shore.
Airdrops have caused chaos, with several people killed by falling pallets when parachutes failed to open.
We keep waiting for aid. This is not a solution, whether by ship or by plane. We saw planes dropping aid and people fighting over it. There are some children who drowned in the sea for aid.
Aid agencies are warning nearly 600,000 people are on the brink of famine.
The living situation is very bad. We cannot eat or drink, and aid is very scarce. They told us there is aid in the south, but it is very scarce.
The ship Open Arms arrived from Cyprus on Friday. The US charity behind the delivery acknowledges that the best way to get desperately needed aid in is for Israel to open the land corridor.
Our first boat arrived there, and we are ready to continue scaling up this. And what we see and we envision is having a highway of aid going to Gaza. But of course, we need to keep opening the land crossing and having more access, because there is not enough aid right now arriving to Gaza.
With Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu approving plans for an assault on the southern city of Rafah, which is sheltering more than 1 million displaced people, any aid deliveries may be too late. Michael Appel, Al Jazeera.
Federico Dessi is the Middle East director at the aid group Humanity and Inclusion. Sir, you're joining us from Amman this hour. Thank you for your time. It's been months, as we reported, since aid trucks were able to reach northern Gaza without any incident. We know how many of them have been shot at in the past few weeks. This one reached northern Gaza without incident. I wanted to start with your take on that.
Well, I think it's a positive sign, but it's still a drop in the ocean of needs in northern Gaza. What we need is really a much larger access for hundreds of trucks every day into southern and northern Gaza. The accesses are there. We have the possibility to bring trucks from Egypt. We have the possibility to bring trucks from Israel. It's a matter of approvals. It's a matter of approvals, and it's a matter of coordination with the humanitarian system, with the United Nations, with the community on the ground, to make sure that this happens safely.
Yeah, as you say, the aid is there. The trucks are standing by at the border, have been for weeks, if not months. Israel controls how much aid goes into Gaza, how much, where, when, how, etc. We also know the Palestinians have died of malnutrition in northern Gaza. None of that is a surprise, because aid agencies had been warning of famine and starvation for months. When you connect all those dots, is it fair to say that Israel has deliberately starved northern Gaza?
Well, I think Israel is putting up a lot of unnecessary hurdles and constraints. And this might amount to the use of starvation as a weapon of war, as you mentioned. There's been an order by the International Court of Justice that requires Israel to ensure unimpeded aid to hold the Gaza Strip. And I think this has not been fully respected in the past months and a half. We really need to see the international community putting more pressure, and we need Israel to abide by its obligation, open all the borders, open all the potential crossing points, and allow a much larger flow of access to aid, as you say.
Okay, so you speak of international pressure. This convoy that we saw reach northern Gaza without incident for the first time in months. What is your read on why Israel then allowed that to happen? Do you think it's international pressure? Do you think it's a Band-Aid? Do you think this is for public consumption because it plays better on the news to allow some aid in? How do you look at it?
Well, I mean, it's hard to know. It's not up to me to judge on the exact reasons, but I think that could happen tens of times every day. We could have literally hundreds of trucks going from southern Gaza to northern Gaza. We could have hundreds of trucks going from Jerusalem and from the Israeli coast into northern Gaza directly. It's all in Israel's power to facilitate that. We also need the bombing to stop. We need an immediate ceasefire, because part of the insecurity and part of the reason convoys have not been able to operate safely and to move safely is also the fact that the conflict is continuing, the airstrikes are happening everywhere, that nowhere is safe in Gaza. And this is also hampering the ability of international organizations to deliver aid. It's forcing to cancel some convoys, to postpone shipments, to withdraw staff from some exposed areas. So any immediate ceasefire is also a key precondition to make sure that we can scale up aid all over Gaza.
Can you talk about the long-term impact, the long-term effects of the last 5 months of war on Gaza? I mean, when a territory and a population have been, of course, killed in great numbers, and when there's been this level of destruction, dismantling of social structures, the healthcare, et cetera, can Gaza ever get back on its feet to what it was before? What would that look like?
Well, I think the impact has been massive, catastrophic. I mean, we lack the words to describe it. There have been, more than 30,000 people killed, more than 7,000 people injured, thousands of people have lost limbs, and somewhere between a third and a half of buildings and houses in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed. I think Gaza can be brought back and life can return to normal, but it takes an immediate ceasefire, it takes full access, and it will take years of efforts by the Palestinians and by the international community to rebuild. And the only way to rebuild in a sustainable way is also to address the root causes of this conflict and make sure that this is the last war and there is some form of agreement and sustainable peace and dignity for the Palestinians, for the Israelis as well, and stability across the region.
All right, Federico Dessi, Middle East Director of the aid group Humanity and Inclusion. Thank you for your time this hour.